Hi, I'm Paul Scalardi, also known as Super Trades, and I am super excited to be here today because I have a very special announcement to make. About 3 years ago, I decided to not only be a stock trader for myself, but to also start to teach my strategy with the hopes and the goals and the dreams that I would be able to have the same kind of impact my strategy has had on me in other people. And I'm here to tell you, and I'm very excited to say, that I now have my first millionaire student. I'd like to introduce Matt to you. He's 25 years old. He's a millionaire. He's from Florida. He's an incredibly talented, hardworking individual. And want to know what set him apart is from the minute he started my program, the minute he started my videos, I could see that he was hungry, that he was willing to put in the extra effort, he was willing to go to the extra yard, and that's resulted in him now being a millionaire. And guess what? Matt is not only a millionaire, he's now a teacher. That's right. He now has his own newsletter, and he's taking my strategy and he's kind of intertwined it and created his own unique strategy. And now he's impacting other people's lives with the stock market the same way I was able to with him and many others. So I'm super excited to have Matt here to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about his story.
Thanks, Paul. I'm glad to be here. Like you said, I'm 25 years old. I didn't really grow up with money. The way I actually started stock trading when I was about 14 years old, my teacher had a stock market challenge, I would say, and whoever won the challenge, we didn't have to take the test. And that's when I first became interested in markets. I've been an innocent bystander of markets for probably about 10 years. And I placed my first trade when I was about 23 years old. And, the way I actually got my trading stake, I would say, is from an unfortunate situation. My mom passed away when I was about 24 years old, and that gave me kind of my starting money into that. When I first started trading back in January of 2014, I had lost about 30% of my account. To put that in perspective, that's someone's salary, and I decided that I really needed help. And so I came along Paul, or Superman, and I kind of learned what he had to teach. I was very interested in what he had to teach. To me, Superman is a rare exception in the stock market. You don't find people who are willing to teach you this kind of strategy. There's very few people that are fundamentally driven in the kind of crack addict society that we live in when it comes to trading. People are very more focused on technical analysis. And so when I saw what he was doing, I decided this is fantastic, and I jumped on that opportunity. As he pointed out, I'm just an average guy. I grew up in a very small hometown area. There was probably 30,000 people, I would say. Everyone knows each other, which is beneficial, but also annoying. And then I moved to Boca Raton and did my higher education there. So, like Paul said, I kind of learned from him, blended it with the things that I had already known, and created the strategy that I now teach today.
The thing about my strategy is that it's built on a foundation of rules and discipline. I don't just teach technicals, and I don't just teach fundamentals. I teach people to coach and train their emotions and to follow the rules and strategy. What I don't want is people blindly following me. What my service and my strategy is not about are just my stock picks or alerts. I'm trying to create people that are independent, self-sufficient traders that are not relying on me or any other trader. In fact, I get upset if someone blindly follows me into a trade. And I think Matt's gonna share one of his biggest lessons when he first started trading with me was to blindly follow me in a trade without really diving into the more deeper disciplines and rules that I surround it with.
One of my biggest losses, I would say, was actually coming from following Paul into a stock that was called TLOG, or we like to call it T-Log. And he had done his research, and because he's Superman, I kind of just jumped right into that trade as soon as he alerted it. I had no idea what I was doing, and I lost probably in one day at that time $12,000, which is about a 12% hit on my account at that point. And I broke all the rules. I talked to Superman about it. He told me, look, this stuff happens, but you can't, blindly follow me. That's not the point of it. The point is to be educated, understand what you're trading. And that kind of really spoke to me. Although he had preached it 1,000 times before, it never really settled in until it actually happened. So,
And then I think what happened after that is what I noticed about Matt is he became one of my most disciplined, rule-following students that I have. And he used that experience to really apply the strategy and the rules and discipline. And then he really started to take off, so to speak. But it's important to understand what he just said. He said that the whole stock market, some people think it's just a video game. Some people think it's a get-rich-quick scheme. It's none of that. It is an opportunity for everyday people like Matt and myself, where I didn't grow up with money, Matt didn't grow up with money, but right now we're both millionaires. We're just everyday people, students. We are now financially independent millionaires, and that opportunity does exist for everyone. But it exists for those that are wanting to put in the time, wanting to put in the effort, and really wanting to follow the rules and strategy. I really don't want people to even be my student if they just want to blindly follow me and not really learn to be a leader and make their own decisions in the stock market. I do teach people everything. I teach them when to cut their losses if a trade doesn't work, and not every trade will work. I teach them when to take profit when many of the trades do work. However, they have to be willing to follow those rules. And sometimes it takes a lesson like this. And believe me, I had bigger lessons than that over my 18 years of experience. But sometimes it takes, like Matt said, it actually happening to really turn and internalize how important the discipline and the rules part of this strategy is.
yeah, some people in life, like myself, unfortunately have to be brought to our knees before we learn something. So, I think that applies to a lot of people. And like Paul said, I mean, now I probably have, I would say, a 5% drawdown on my account at any one given time, and I, kind of cut my losers pretty quick, depending on if the thesis has changed, obviously, and really into taking profits. Sometimes, that does hurt me, but I would rather be profitable versus, holding on to hope. So.
Right, and the whole core of this strategy is to maximize your gains and minimize your losses. And that's really something that's different from what you'll see out there. When you go on Twitter or when you go on CNBC, everybody acts like all they do is have winning trades. That's not the case. Most of the trades are working. However, everyone will not work, and the key is to cut your losses, and I teach when to cut your losses, and to maximize your gains. And I have a proprietary method to let your winners run. So when you are in a successful trade, how to maximize the most profit out of it with the less stress. But now I want Matt to share some of the gains and the victories and the applications of the strategy where you did put it into place and it was a great winning trade.
Okay, so I've never had any kind of monumental $100,000 gainers. That would actually make me feel a little bit uncomfortable. But one of my greatest percentage gains, I would say, is I do trade futures, and I had gotten long the S&P 500 about 1837-ish, only 2 contracts, and in 3 weeks it had gone from 1837 to about 2007, around the same time last year. So that was one, and I actually.
How much did you make on that trade?
That was about a $20,000 trade.
Okay.
Another one I would say was an IPO actually, which was Weibo. I bought 3,000 shares. It was based off of Paul's strategy for IPOs. He pretty much has a strategy almost for anything, I would say, in any market. So I had bought it at the open, and I rode it 3,000 shares into the close. It closed at 23, and that was like a $24,000 gainer.
Right, and I think the interesting thing about what Matt said is, yes, we talked about earlier, sometimes I've had really big gains, but Matt is a millionaire not by swinging for the fences and having all these home runs. It's consistency. He's consistent. He has consistent winners, but he's consistent in applying the disciplines and the rules. He's minimizing his losses, and he's maximizing his gains, and he's compounding his wealth over time. Get me wrong, 20,000 is an awesome trade. But the key I want you to know about Matt is he is consistently compounding his wealth, and that's the reason why in less than 2 years, he's a millionaire. And I'm proud of him, and I think this is a great testament that we can both tell you, because now we're both teachers, that Matt was impacted by my strategy, and now there's people being impacted by his own strategy that are on their way to financial independence. And what we both can tell you we believe in is the stock market. The stock market is an opportunity for financial freedom. It's an opportunity to become a millionaire. It's an opportunity to change your life financially if people are willing to put in the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't get anywhere in this game without putting in an enormous amount of effort. I wish I could tell you guys, oh, just do this one thing and you'll be a multimillionaire. And it's just simply not the case. The market is consistently changing. It's never stagnant. So you have to have, a decent amount of strategy for everything that comes your way, whether, it's penny stock, futures market, options markets, and you have to do your own due diligence. It's not just going to come to you. So, Paul works extremely hard. If you guys ever talk to him, one-on-one, he's extremely smart when it comes to SEC filings and companies. And that's just him putting in the time and the effort. So, if you want to be in this game, you have to work really, really hard and do the same thing every single day. It takes a lot of discipline.
But the good news is, I have 18 plus years of experience, and you don't have to go through 18 years. You don't have to go through the many mistakes I made along the way, because my strategy is not just built on my talents and successes. It's also built on my failures, and that's really where the rules and the discipline came into the strategy. So some people go to college for 4 years, and they learn a trade and a job, which the majority of people, it's going to take 10, 20, 30 years to reach financial independence, if so. And I know that because I was in corporate America. However, this is a trade that you can learn in much less time at a fraction of the cost as college. And the great thing about the stock market, it's always going to be there, no matter how old you are, no matter where you are. In fact, we can travel around now, and we can do our job as long as we have an internet connection. So that's the beauty of the stock market, and it's an incredible opportunity, and I want to continue teaching. And now not only do I have my first millionaire student, but now he's teaching others with his own strategy, and he's impacting lives.
Some of my long-term goals are, I love teaching. I do one-on-one right now, just because for me, I think every trader is different, and I give my students the individual attention. I love making watch lists. I would do it anyways, and it's kind of cool that, people have also wanted my watch list as well. But in terms of my future goals, I would really want to open up my own hedge fund eventually, and have some kind of psychoanalytical component to it. Trading in the Zone, Mark Douglas, he had a similar kind of company where companies would hire their traders out, or hire him for his traders to talk to, kind of like a psychoanalysis kind of component. So it'd be like a hedge fund slash, psychology thing going on. And then I'd also like to, after that, kind of open up my own fund within my hedge fund that would be more dedicated to helping people. For me, I think there's no reason why people should go to bed hungry, or there's no clean water in the world. I've personally done my own tests on like reverse osmosis. Kind of want to build my own, have enough money basically from the fund that's just dedicated to helping people. Maybe build my own school as well. I love the ability to be able to take things around the world and apply them into one cohesive idea and profit off of that. I mean, sometimes is it not the prettiest thing, like profiting from Ebola? Sure, it's not the greatest thing in the world, but I love the ability to take things that are happening out in the world and being able to create a thesis and profit off of that.
We have just gone through an incredible period of a bull market run, unlike maybe we've seen in history. However, I don't need to be in the business of predicting and telling you what the market's going to do tomorrow, next month, the rest of the year, 2016. Because the great thing about myself and my own strategy is I'm about finding quality situations in any market. And I've traded through bull markets. I've traded through the Great Recession, which was one of the most intense bear down markets in all of history. 2007 to 2009 was just an incredible time to be trading stocks. And what my strategy does is it finds quality momentum setups where, whether it's a bull market and you're making money as stocks go up, but yes, I have a strategy where you find stocks to short or momentum shorting if you're in a bear market and the market's going down. So the great thing is, bull market, bear market, there's always quality setups out there. And what Matt and I do every day is we get up and we find those quality setups in any market. So I can't tell you what the market's going to do. However, I do know this: any market, and I've traded through them all, there are always quality setups year in and year out with great opportunities to make money in the stock market. Did you ever think you were going to be a millionaire? Did you ever see that? Was it ever a goal?
Actually, one of my life goals was to become a millionaire. It's not necessarily the idea or the money that mattered to me. It was more about the financial independence, the freedom to be able to do what I want. And I think a lot of people fixate on that number. But personally, when I passed it, it was another day just doing what I normally do. There was no parade that came into my room. There was no party that was thrown there after. But it was like, because you grind so hard and for so long, for 600, 700 days basically. And eventually that part, if you're doing well, comes. And it was not something that I ever fixated on. It's just the byproduct of having a good strategy. I think that a lot of people like to fixate, and it's good to have goals. I'm not saying it's not good to have goals, but money in the stock market is the byproduct of having a good strategy and having the discipline in the market. Anyone who's successful in the market has really great discipline. And to cross over that line for me was just, I actually personally struggled to get above it because I was so fixated on that psychology of that number until I was just like, why do I care, and then it finally happened. So it was just for me, just focusing on what I do day in and day out. When I crossed over, it was nothing like, whoa, this just happened.
But that's a great example. That's the kind of student that I want to teach. Somebody that is more concerned. It's like an athlete, okay? It's like, I want to coach an athlete that is not just, wants to put no effort in at practice and just hopefully score a touchdown and get in the newspaper. I want to train an athlete like Matt, who is going to practice, working on his form, working on, knowing the playbook, having the form, running the routes right. I'm using a football analogy. That's what he was as a trader. He was more concerned with learning both the technical and especially the fundamental aspect of stocks that I teach, as well as, I remember him telling me that one of the biggest impactful things was the rules and the discipline. And he is an individual that drives himself to follow those rules. So that's the kind of student I want, and that's the kind of student it takes. And the good thing is, again, anybody can be that student. There's nothing, special about Matt and I. We both, have our strengths. We both have our weaknesses. But anybody can be that student if you have that drive and if you have that character and if you're willing to put that effort in. Talking about bulls and bears and going long and short stocks, historically, especially in this bull market, for me personally, and Warren Buffett has a quote, "When it's raining gold, take a bucket, not a thimble." For me, in this bull market, there are so many long opportunities that I've been fixated on that and using my strategy for that. But what's really interesting is what Matt has done with my strategy, and besides integrating into his own thought process, he's taken my strategy and applied it as mostly a short seller. Matt actually will make money as stocks go down, as I have been making money when stocks go up. But the great thing is the strategy works, bull or bear, long or short. And I'll let him talk more about how he's applied that to the short selling.
Yeah, so actually in the last, I would say, year or so, I've gone short mostly. Most of my profits have been made from going short. I would say about 70% of them. And I kind of do this still kind of the same fundamental analysis, kind of macro analysis on stuff, but I'm definitely more slanted to the short side just because I think personally valuations are ridiculous. And so for me, I don't want to say, I do the exact opposite. I still go long, but for me, I definitely have an infinity of going short. And I've taken what Paul has learned or has taught me, and I have applied it to more of the short side. But it's still the same basic process that he goes through and I go through to come to those conclusions.
Yeah, and that's what makes it exciting. Like bull market, bear market, just bring the market, because what Matt and I both do, again, is we're going to find quality setups, long, short, bull, bear, in every market. Because one thing we can both say is every week, every month, every year, there are countless opportunities, whether on the long side or the short side, that the market creates every day. And listen, that's what makes it exciting. We're not, we may be doing the same thing as far as like typing in buy or sell, but we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of different companies in different industries and watching all kinds of things develop in current events that affect different stocks. It's just an incredibly exciting occupation. I mean, we love our jobs. We love that we work for ourselves, that we report to ourselves, but we actually love the content of what we do every day.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So if you're a new trader that's looking to join Paul's service, you need to be prepared. That's number one, and understand that Paul has a lot to teach you, and you're going to have to put in a lot of time and effort. I like to think of it as it's 50% Paul, 50% you. It doesn't work one without the other. So if you're new coming in thinking that you're just going to come in and sign up and he's going to give you the world, that's a fallacy. So what you really got to do is, if you're new to trading, you really have to put in the time and effort to understand what he's saying, what his rules are, especially the discipline aspect before you even place your first trade. And you'll hear him in the chat room. If you start going off on crazy tangents or throwing out crazy stocks, or you're trying to hype, manipulate, whatever, he's going to throw a headset at you. Not physically,
Not physically,
but spirit, or what would you call that?
I have this whole analogy that I'm a coach, and if you look, there's a lot of pictures on the internet, and you can see it during games. When coaches get frustrated, especially football coaches, they take their headset off and they just smash it on the ground. So if a student is not putting the time or, not following the rules and the discipline, it's like I say, that's it. I just smashed my headset. That's how I felt about that. But I appreciate what Matt said, and that's really I will offer the strategy. I will offer the education. What you do with it is going to be on you. The great news is, and it's just not Matt, myself. There's plenty of other students out there that have taken this strategy and are either financially independent or on their way to it. However, there are also people that think it's, they just want the prize. They don't want to put the time in, and those people aren't going to get anything out of it. So I ask you, what kind of character do you have? Do you have the character to take this knowledge and become a Paul or a Matt? The opportunity is there, but it's a question of what you do with it.
You can come to, don't ever feel like you can't come to Paul and talk to him, but you can't bullshit him either. He'll know whether you're putting in the time and the effort. I mean, there's been countless times where I would, say, hey, Paul, what do you think of this? And he'll say, what do you think of it? Before, even answering it. And what he's really checking is hey, have you done your own due diligence before you have come to me? Not that he doesn't want to help me, but he is trying to teach me to be self-sufficient, and that's the key to it all. And, if I can come up with a great thesis, he's more than happy to listen. So don't feel like, that you can't come, talk to him, email him. He's very open, but also expect to be able to answer the questions that he'll ask you. And that's his way of checking, have you really done it, or are you just asking me because you're lazy? So that's the kind of person that he wants.
That's absolutely true. I'm like a coach. In fact, I make stocks exciting, I make stocks fun, but I have very high expectations for my students. I expect them to, if I tell them I want them to study or watch a video, I expect them to do it. And listen, I'm training people to be self-sufficient. If you ask me a question and it's something you can look up I'll tell you where to go look it up, but I'll say, go look it up. I'm not going to answer a question for you that you can look up. Instead, I'm going to teach you how to find the answers yourself. Because at the end of the day, like we talked about, I want to train self-sufficient traders who take this knowledge and are able to make their own decisions and make their own money by using what they've learned.
And the truth is, that's how it is. I'm not in Paul's house and Paul's not in my house. Like, you have to be able to have the confidence in yourself, and without, being self-sufficient, you're never going to have that ability. And that's really the key to trading is that confidence level, I think. So
I agree. So in closing, this has been an incredible time for me personally, to not only been teaching for 3 years, but to have my first millionaire student. I'm super excited. I'm very proud of Matt. And again, he's teaching other people. But I'm so proud of him that I wanted to get something really special for him. Something that does two things. One, it commemorates this fantastic achievement to being a millionaire himself and my first millionaire student. The second purpose was to try and tame that hair. So I've ordered specifically for Matt the $1 million man hat because he's a millionaire. Let's get that going on that head. Matt, first millionaire student, millionaire teacher, check out his service, and you too can be a super trader.